Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today's Tuesday, the 8th of September, 2020. Glad to have you guys here. Now, I'll tell you what. Kirk and McCoy were going into a cave on a forbidden planet someplace, and the reason why they were going in is because they got tricorder signals of there was a life form inside the cave, so they were wandering inside this cave. And it was kind of dark in there, but they had their torches lit, And all of a sudden, Kirk says, "Careful, McCoy, careful, don't fall down that hole." And there's a big hole standing between them, so McCoy was careful. He walked around the edge of the hole and went over to where the captain was. And Captain looked down the hole and he says, "I wonder how deep that hole is." McCoy says, "Well, there's only one way to find out." McCoy picks up a stone and he drops it into the hole. And they listen. They hear the stone fall. It's falling and falling. Finally, plunk! It hits the bottom. They hear a sound way off in the distance. They hear the stone hit the bottom. Well, he says to Kirk, "I guess that cave is pretty damn deep." That's how far the stock market's going to fall if the Fed doesn't offer some sort of meaningful support. And I'm going to tell you what. The further they let this thing go, the more stimulus it's going to take to draw it back. This market has been pumped up by cheap, easy money by the Fed. And everybody else has got involved because it's went up, because it's been pumped. Everybody's got excited and everything. All these new Robinhood traders out there, thousands and thousands of them. But they don't realize where the big money comes from. The big money comes from the Fed. And, I'm not absolutely 100% sure that the Fed has got the kahunas to actually keep printing the amount of money needed to sustain this. They could throw their hands up in the air at the end. Oh my goodness, what a tragedy would unfold if they do that, But this is, I'm thinking to myself, this right now is what's starting right now. It's the deflationary event that I predicted about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, on my channel. I called it a deflationary spike event, where everything will go down except the dollar. Then the dollar will gain strength. But I also said that it's not going to be a long-lived event, because my personal belief is at some point they're going to have to step in with money creation to try to quell this beast, this monster that scares the Fed. They're scared. They're all scared of it because of what deflation could do. Deflation could actually just completely, I can't begin to tell you guys how powerful it is. Let's get the chart started right here. And let's take a look at what's going on today with the silver price. There was a flash crash of silver. It's down 38 cents because it didn't come back all the way from the flash crash. It's only partially come back. So it's still down 38 cents. I'll tell you guys, a few weeks ago I predicted if the markets fall that gold and silver is very hard to predict which direction they'll go in. They could very well go up. At a certain point, when investors out there really start to get scared, right now they're not really scared. They're thinking the Fed's going to jump in there and support everything. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. In fact, I've predicted at 5,000, no more than a 5,000 point drop, that the Fed will come in and do some action to support it back up again. But all they're doing is creating bubbles. None of it's meaningful. It's what you call pushing on a string at this point. And they're making a distinct separation between one side of the fence, which is the poverty-stricken people, that this is making more poverty all the time, and the other side of the fence where the rich people are getting richer and richer and richer. And it's creating this wealth gap, this monster of a wealth gap, too. Everything's gone topsy-turvy now at this point. And we still actually have that virus out there. So things are not good, guys. We are in a massive amount of trouble. but the trouble hasn't really manifested itself where everybody can see it just yet, where shock and awe hasn't hit yet for the majority of the population, you know. They still, a lot of the people out there think everything's just fine. Oh, they think, oh yeah, we got a virus, got to be a bit careful, but everything's fine. Little do they know, things are not fine. Things are not fine in the financial system. And what we're facing is this. It's just like Kirk and McCoy in the cave. You know, what if McCoy was walking around the side of the big hole and all of a sudden there was a loose stone or something and down he went into the hole? Instantly, you got a big problem, you know? And that's the way with this. You know, this is a big and a very present danger into the system. Okay, we're going to check gold now. Let me see. Let me change over to gold. And gold is at 1928. It's down 50 cents on the day. Gold's made most of its way back from the flash crash earlier. And it's almost back up to the levels where it was at earlier. So silver will probably follow. We'll probably see silver. If gold makes it back up to that level, then silver will probably follow and make it back up to that level too. So we'll probably looking at no change. I mean, if you get a flash crash, it goes down low. That's just the rich people making a way to buy up all the physical that's left. You know, they flash crash it, then they buy up all the physical that's left. They flash crash it with their paper nonsense, their paper derivatives products, and then they'll buy up all the physical with the. There's something going on like that, you know. Anyway, cryptocurrency market caps. We're looking at 325.5 billion with a Bitcoin dominance of 57.4%. And we're looking at a Bitcoin price $10,098. You know, this asset class, you know, cryptocurrency, we're going to look back at these prices right now. And we're going to think, hey, you know, that was a really good deal. You know, after cryptocurrency gets to where it's going. And the same thing with gold and silver. But you know, these guys right now are really interested in the dollar. They're not going to let the whole economy, I can't see it anyway, them letting the whole economy fall down into that hole because there is no bottom. And at a certain point on the way down, when they're free falling down into that hole in the cave, you know, in other words, all the markets or everything's falling, at a certain point they would just lock up. Everything would lock up. The banking systems would lock up. Everything would lock up. And after everything locks up, well, every company in America wouldn't be able to make payroll. So everybody go home. And then a few days later, everything would start stopping. Gas stations wouldn't be open. Grocery stores wouldn't be open. Banks wouldn't be open. Nobody would be able to go in. Nobody would have any money. The power companies would start even closing up in the end because how can they repair the lines and stuff? If they got to pay their linesmen, they got to make payroll. I mean, it's just nobody would work. No money, nobody works. The whole system runs on money. You know, everything locks up. I even think it would make its way into the military. Even, you know, I mean, the whole system runs on money. It'd be an absolute catastrophe at a certain point because once completely order is lost, you know, and nobody even knows what's going on because telecommunications is down and the power's out and everything, and everybody just goes crazy. Then how do you get all that back structured again so that they'll take command from one person? How do you restructure this system when this system has been built on thousands of years of structuring it? And yes, it's a terrible mess because they just structured it haphazardly, you know. But how do you restructure it if it all breaks apart? You know, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to go off on a tangent here a little bit, just for a minute. Easter Island, they experienced this, but on a smaller scale, more of a microcosm of what happened on Easter Island. They actually experienced this. Their population swelled. They had good times. They're cutting all the trees down, you know, making fires, and had big farms, and everybody was happy, and the population swelled. And they thought that they were the whole world, because they saw the ocean around them as being the sky, like the sky. There was nobody else out there. They believed their civilization was the entire world. Well, their population on their little world of Easter Island swelled, you know. And then all of a sudden they started cutting down the last trees or whatever, you know, in the forest and everything. And the farmers couldn't do this or do that. And there was a little bit of a food shortage, and people started to get hungry, and craziness erupted. They started to fight one another for food and stuff, and it swelled into almost like a civil war, you know, just a crazy. And the craziness just kept going and going with no structure. As soon as the farmers would try to plant something, well, the hungry people would rip it all up and eat the little sprouts, you know, whatever. I mean, they couldn't restore order, and the population kept dwindling. They were actually resorting to things I'm not even going to mention on here. But let's put it this way: the population kept dwindling down to a certain point where in the end, there was so few of them that they all come together in the end, and they made peace, and they started to work together to rebuild their culture and society. And it was a complete change, though. It was a complete shift. The new culture that they formed was a complete shift from the old culture that they had before. You know, and there's so few of them left. I mean, they could practically all just sit around a table together when there was thousands of them, you know, and that's what happened on Easter Island. Anyway, 459 points down on the stock market today. How far is the Fed going to let this thing go? Well, you know, the only thing holding it right now is the fact that they believe, the people that believe that the Fed's going to offer some sort of support. If they believe that the Fed was going to withdraw all support, this market would just poof, down she'd go. Okay, crude oil is down $3.43. Now, see, this is a big signal you're getting right here. Something's not right. U.S. Treasuries. You see, they're supporting the long end of the yield curve. They're buying up these treasuries, and they're moving them about 5 basis points. We're looking at a U.S. 10-year at 0.679 and a U.S. 30-year at 1.41, and both moving about 5 basis points. This is buying. They're buying. This is yield curve control. Let's take a look now at the U.S. dollar index, and this might be the last big hurrah for the dollar. 93.33. This little bit of deflating markets we see right now might be the last hurrah for the dollar. You know, and how long will it last? You know, I'm going to tell you, for you dollar bulls out there that are looking at this and saying, I told you guys, I've been saving dollars, I got all my dry powder and everything, you know, and they're all excited and they think, hey, this is great. It's not great, because the only way the dollar is actually going to manage to become more and more powerful is if the system deflates. And if the system deflates at a certain point, it's going to get out of control and it's going to lock up. And once you lock that system up, you know, like I say, everything would come apart. Everything would come apart. And that means that there wouldn't be any governments, basically, if everything comes apart at the seams. The only thing of value at first would just be food and water. Nothing else of value, you know. And ultimately, in the end, they would probably have to try to rebuild a system somehow. But, I mean, it would just be like Easter Island sort of thing, the way I see it. And so that's what deflation will do. So the only way the dollar is going to be strong is with deflation. Now, the opposing side of that's inflation. And there we have a system where everybody gets paid. So everybody keeps working. The only thing is they have to be paid more and more and more, because the dollar's worth less and less and less. And so savers get destroyed in that system. Savers that save in dollars get destroyed in that system. So either way, if you're involved with the dollar, deflation, your dollars will become worthless. Inflation, your dollars will become worthless. And the opposite of that, gold and silver is probably what they would barter with if we had some sort of an Easter Island style disaster. They would go back, once they started bartering again, they would. It would be gold and silver more than likely, you know. The internet would probably still be down, so they wouldn't be using Bitcoin, you know. And the thing is the opposing side of that is gold and silver works good in the inflation too. So the dollar doesn't work in either scenario, and gold and silver works in both. So, you know, where you want to be in the not in the dollar. You want to be in gold and silver, and the real physical stuff you can hold in your hand. It might come down in the end to a really rich guy out there who has stored all of his gold with some company or something, you know, but he kept 2 or 3 ounces of silver back for himself at home because they were his favorite coins. But he stored all of his gold and all of his silver with a storage company. Well, if the system were to lock up, you know, and these companies and stuff go into receivership, the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be a Brinks truck come in there to that company, and they're going to take all the gold and silver that's stored there, and they're going to take it to a secondary location. So you're going to go to the company where you got your gold and silver stored, you know, and they're going to say to them, hey, you know, I want my gold and silver. And they're going to say, well, we've went into receivership, and we were owned by such and such a bank. And you'll have to file your, what do you call it, with that bank. That bank's in receivership now, and along with every other bank. Now, I mean, good luck trying to get your bullion. You know, and so, say the guy was rich and he stored all of it with them except for 3 ounces that he kept for himself because those are his favorite coins. Well, in the end, that's all he might have is those 3 ounces really have in his hand. If you don't hold it in your hand, in your possession, you don't have it. It's not yours. And that's the way with all of your things that you trade on these markets, like stocks, bonds, everything that you have. You know? It comes down to an ancient law of survival that's come through mankind for gosh knows how long. If it's in your hand, it's yours. Possession is the important part. Anyway, listen, thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.